Hi, Eric. We're here live on YouTube today. How's New York?
New York is actually lovely today. We're getting some almost spring-like weather, and if it stays like this, we will be very happy campers up here.
Oh, that's great. Same here in DC. I think it's going up to 73.
Well, you're 10
So
degrees warmer than we are, so okay, enjoy it.
there we go. All right. So, Eric, my question that I have for you today is you talk about how space is not a continuity, and we need to understand space as being granular. So, my question is time also granular and not a continuity?
Well, that is a very, very good question, and it has a very simple answer or a more complex answer. The simple the simple answer is, of course, it's granular. Everything is granular. If space were not granular and were continuous, it would be a total mismatch. Now, you can also take the question one further, and what is the granularity of space? Of time. We've talked about the granularity of space. It is the Planck length. You can only divide something so many times, and when you get to a certain length, you can no longer divide it. And the reason that you cannot divide it is simply that physically it is the length at which mass can contract to and then can contract no further. So if mass cannot contract any further, there cannot be any space contraction either. And the same is true with time. Time is basically measured by the vibrations of strings, and strings make up everything in the universe. And strings basically are exactly what we could call the the timekeepers of the universe. And I'm just making up that word as we speak, but it's not a bad analogy. In other words,
it's a great phrase. Strings are the timekeepers of the universe. I just want to.
Correct. They are literally the timekeepers of the universe. They vibrate in and out in heaven knows how many different patterns, and we're not going to go into that. But a vibration of every string takes exactly the same amount of time, and that time cannot be reduced, just as any space cannot be reduced below the Planck length. Time cannot be reduced below the what we should call the Planck time. In other words, the time that it takes a string to vibrate back and forth. It is basically, if you imagine it being a clock where something, but well, actually, look at a watch. A watch is not a continuous device. I mean, the hand seems to sweep continuously, but it isn't sweeping continuously. It is there is a crystal inside there, or there is some other thing which is vibrating, and the vibrations of that define the lowest increment in time in your watch. The same is true in the universe, except the increment here is the increment of the fastest thing that exists in the universe, which is a vibrating string. And nothing can move faster than that. It is exactly equal to this thing that when you buy a computer, they tell you what is the clock rate of the computer. What they mean is what is the smallest increment of time the computer can handle. And the smaller that time is, the faster it will run, or the greater is its capability. But there is an irreducible number with it, and there is an irreducible number like that in everything, including the universe. So this at least is a question that has a very clear and very concise answer. Yeah, yes, it is not continuous. Nothing is continuous. The idea of continuity is a delusion of the human brain. The human brain sees it in what we think is continuity.
So,
It doesn't exist, and it doesn't exist in space. It doesn't exist in time. It doesn't exist in waves. It just plain doesn't exist.
okay. So, so this vibrating string, which has the minimal unit vibrational rate of 1 Planck time, and that is the fastest thing in the universe. Is it the speed of light?
It is actually the speed of light, because light is being propelled by this vibration in the form of cosmic nodes. And cosmic nodes are nothing more than a bunch of strings that vibrate in and out in 1 Planck time. And when they vibrate out, it will give a push to whatever it has just absorbed that is traveling through the universe, and give it a push to the next cosmic node. But you cannot go faster than that. And so the speed of light is really the speed at which strings vibrate, which translate into how fast it can push a photon of light or any other such thing to the next cosmic node. And you cannot do any better than that. Now,
And
that is a
so
hugely
now,
small amount of time.
yeah, a hugely small amount of time. That's a good line. So now I'm wondering if I should be picturing dominoes, where one falls on another, falls on another, falls on another, as propelling the particle through, or is that not a good metaphor to
That
be
is
looking at?
actually a very good metaphor, because remember, there are roughly the smallest gradation on a metric ruler, 1 millimeter, which you can barely see, has a million cosmic nodes within that tiny space. So within that tiny space, a photon is moving, but I'm slowing this down trillions of times. It is going in these tiny increments over tiny spaces in that tiny amount of time. And just how tiny that is very hard to get through our heads, because it is enormously tiny.
It's another great phrase. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome.
Our enormously tiny scale levels.
Okay.
I love it.
That's a good phrase also.
I'll see you next time, Eric. Thank you so much.
Okay, so thank you again for a very intelligent question.
Oh, woo! I think the more I spend time with you, my questions do start getting a little better. So